Welcome to another episode of Trash Talk. I'm Jon-Bernard. This is Nick. We are the Kairouz Brothers giving you the what's happening in all of combat sports. This week, we're in Perth, UFC 305. We're here on the ground. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like there's a bit of a lack of hype this week around Perth.
I think the weather plays a part. We had a nice on-location set on the beach set for this podcast, but due to the inclement weather, we've had to go to our hotel room. And the weather, I think, has been a downer on the week. There hasn't been as much hype on social media as I thought. Izzy and Drakus are trying to do their best to try and promote the fight, but it is very main event heavy, and I think the other fighters on the card just aren't that interesting.
Look, I'm excited to see the best flyweight in the world, Steve Erceg. Okay, I'm also excited to see our friend Kai Kara-France, who we'll be catching up with a bit later. But
Steve Carell, Michael Scott, he is probably my favourite fighter on the card just because just looking at him, it makes me smile.
There's even a better comparison, Al Pacino and Scarface. People have made that little comparison. He's got the same jawline. Well, not only that, I feel like if you compare it to other Australian cards, it hasn't probably fit the bill. The Sydney card with Sean Strickland having that caliber of superstar. You're talking someone right now who has 2 million followers on social media.
And was electric. He just said whatever he wanted. It was something foreign to Australia. Yeah.
Exactly right. So you had that main event against someone like Israel Adesanya, and you also had other heavy hitters like, Volkov on that card against Tai Tuivasa. Tyson Pedro was on that card at the time.
But everything in Australia is delayed a day. So usually the press conference is on the Wednesday or the Thursday. Yeah. The weigh-in's on the Friday. Everything gets getting pushed back by a day. But what I've heard is there's a big South African presence here in Perth.
A lot of South Africans here in Perth. Apparently, it's very close to South Africa. You're only looking at an 8-9 hour travel.
I think it's the first stopover. So if you do want to come to Australia from Africa, you're going to stop over in Perth. So a lot of South Africans here, which could mean a big, groundswell of support for Drakus on fight night. Is he supposed to be the home crowd favourite? New Zealand, Australia, one of the Anzacs. But Drakus could be the home, he could have the home crowd advantage the whole night.
Well, look, I feel like Israel Adesanya does this every time he comes to Australia. He's expecting the crowd to get behind him. You saw what happened last time with Sean Strickland. They wanted him, the underdog, to get home. You know what I mean? And I feel like you're going to see that, even though Drakus is a champion. He was been saying all week, and we will get into it, that, contender is just different, but you haven't seen championship Drakus. And with the crowd behind him, these South Africans that are here, you saw it on UFC Embedded. The guy, he said it was like a meet and greet when he arrived to the airport in South Africa. That many South Africans here when he greeted them here. So
I think he does have the home crowd advantage. Championship Drakus, I don't think is a thing because they don't have a title defense. So,
but he's been training as champion.
Yeah, but just because you're saying that, I have seen contender Izzy.
Okay,
he has been undefeated when he's a contender. So I think I'll take Izzy so far. If we're going off the persona of different characters.
Okay, let's go to our hot take. We do this every single week. We find a comment for the hot take. This week's hot take: Jon Jones is the pound-for-pound #1 in the UFC.
Well, this hot take comes from Dana White himself.
Yes.
He's gone on many podcasts after many press conferences, and he said, Jon Jones is the best fighter in the UFC. Everyone on the internet has no idea. They're stupid. If you don't think Jon Jones is the best, you don't know UFC. He's currently, I think, ranked #3 in the pound-for-pound rankings. Islam is #1. And if I was going to say who I think is the #1 pound-for-pound, it's Islam because he's been more active. And if he were to go up in his weight class, I think he would absolutely demolish Bilal Muhammad. Mm-hmm. And Jon Jones, he hasn't fought in over a year. And his heavyweight title fight was so quick. Like, you can't really say, look, by definition, it's, someone that transcends weight classes is the best. Jon Jones, by going up to heavyweight, did do that. But one fight in 2 years, I understand why he's not #1. There is a lot of stuff that you could say goes into it more than just jumping up weight classes.
All the internet's been talking about is Dana White's glazing of Jon Jones. In the press conference for the Contender Series, talking about why Jon Jones is the pound-for-pound #1. When he's on the Pat McAfee show, he's talking about why Jon Jones is #1. When he's pulling cards on stage with, at some convention.
It's become a meme how much he loves Jon Jones. How much he's glazing Jon Jones.
It's like you ask him how the weather is. Dana will tell you Jon Jones is pound-for-pound, #1 in the world. But, to Dana White's defense, I don't think he is wrong in terms of someone that has transcended divisions and is the best in the world. When it comes to striking, when it comes to wrestling, Jon Jones is the best in the world. Tom Aspinall has something to say about that, but I agree with you. I think Islam is deservedly #1 because he's been active as champion.
And he's very dominant as champion.
He's very dominant. I would say he's probably as dominant as Khabib ever was because he's just as good a striker. The guy is a freak when it comes to grappling and wrestling. that he's got that Dagestani wrestling, obviously. But the thing about Islam is he's given you exciting fights. Dustin Poirier, exciting fight where he stands up against him.
Volkanovski,
the first in Perth, exciting fight. Volkanovski the second, he kicks his head off. So, I mean, Charles Oliveira, like the list goes on. The guy fights the best of the best. He knows anyone in his top 10 ranking is a dangerous fighter, and he's not scared to go up against them. He wants a challenge. And that's why I think the pound for pound number one. I think if he's to go up a division or 2 divisions, he still competes with the best of the best.
I think that's what even Bilal said. He could go versus Drakus or Adesanya if he wanted to really go for that double champ.
Let's be honest. He could go up against Bilal Muhammad, even though Bilal says we'll never face each other. He would take that title straight off Bilal Muhammad.
Just without cutting weight, Islam looks bigger than him.
Yeah.
So I think he would comfortably move up to that weight class. You've seen other fighters try and move up weight classes before, but Islam seems like the one to do it. He says it's his dream, but I don't think he needs that double champ status to be pound for pound number one.
Regardless, getting back to Dana, I understand where he's coming from, where Jon Jones just walks into the octagon after 3 years off and just mauls Cyril Gunn like he's a nobody, like he was one of us getting into the octagon. But, you know, put some respect on Islam. And Dana, I think he probably should, as one of your better, not that he's too active because Islam's injured as well, but he should put some respect on Islam. Give Islam his flowers too as a pound for pound number one.
Does Dana White glaze Jon Jones just so he can fight? Just like it's like a part of the contract. Like
I don't think it's just so he can fight.
Part of the negotiation.
I think it's so he could sell this Stipe fight. I think it's literally his job as a promoter. He is promoting Jon Jones as the best to sell this.
We know he's
in the heavyweight division fight.
Like, anytime a reporter criticizes Jon Jones or says anything negative about him, he's on the complete other end and he's absolutely berating the reporters, saying like, I don't think you know who Jon Jones is. And you know, people show clips of like Jon Jones being talked about by Dana White in 2018, 2019 before he took time off. Dana White wasn't the biggest fan of him. He repeatedly badmouthed Jon Jones, but since he's come back, it's like a handshake agreement. Hey, Dana, don't say a bad word about me. Or I'll be out again. I'll be gone.
Yeah, there's that famous clip of Jon Jones shouldn't talk about tests or
that's what I'm saying. He's badmouthed him previously. So, for him to do a complete 180 and become the biggest fanboy of Jon Jones, it's just surprising. And Dana White, who's said to be in his kind of villain arc now, he's hating on everybody. He's hated on every fighter, hated on the last few fighters. He loves Jon Jones. He won't say a bad thing about him. It's just surprising.
Well, let's get further into Dana White. Dana White was on Pat McAfee this week. McAfee likes a bit of the gossip. He asked him about Alex Pereira and what's next for Alex Pereira. That's what people want to know. I think for us, we think it's the winner of the Ankalaev fight at UFC Abu Dhabi will probably face Alex Pereira for the title.
For the lightweight title, that seems like Alex Pereira's next fight. But McAfee did ask him, are we going to see Pereira versus Jon Jones? Are we going to see Pereira in the heavyweight division? And Dana White said no, vehemently said no.
Shut it down straight away.
And that's disappointing because I think people like Joe Rogan have spoken about it. So many UFC people have said he has the power to move up and really do damage in the heavyweight division. And he's 36 years old, so he doesn't really have a lot of time to move up to the heavyweight division.
Credit to Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen said, let's make it happen because you won't see probably in our lifetime again someone that could go up 3 weight divisions.
And contend for a title. It's not just going up for the weight. It's actually contending for the title. And I get maybe Jon Jones.
Looking for a three-time champ, not just a double champ, a 3-time champ.
And that's something that I think needs to happen. If you're a promoter, Dana White, you go for the money fights. Jon Jones versus Aspinall probably is why he's saying that needs to happen first before a Pereira moving up to heavyweight fight exists. Did he shut it down completely like he's not going to move up to heavyweight at all, or just in the near future it won't happen?
I just think it won't be his next fight. Yeah, that's what he basically said. No, it's not going to happen now. And I don't think Jon Jones is going to entertain it either. I think after this Stipe fight is pretty much done, but he's going to be not forced, but kind of back to a corner by the fans to say you got to take this Tom Aspinall fight. But honestly, what would you rather see? Alex Pereira versus Jon Jones or Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones? What would you say is the money fight right now?
Money fight is Pereira versus Jones, but that's just because of the stakes of moving up 3 weight divisions. But the fight that needs to happen that personally I want to see is Aspinall versus Jones because that's a true heavyweight fight. And Aspinall, if you're the interim champion, your next fight is always the undisputed opportunity.
I would follow the money. If Pereira is the golden boy right now in the UFC, he's the cash cow, he's the face of the UFC right now, then give him Jon Jones. Give him that. That's the ultimate money fight. That is big business in the UFC. Tom Aspinall, as good as he is, the guy's, he's very entertaining. He's a freak of a fighter, doesn't see anything past round 1. But I don't think it would sell the same. And if you want to talk big money, and what's going to get the fans and casual fans' interest, it's Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira.
I agree, but what happens to Tom Aspinall? Who does he fight then? Does he have to wait for that fight to happen? Because at the rate Jon Jones' fight, it's once a year. So what, he's going to wait 3 years?
He was happy to do a tournament. I think he's happy to wait. I don't know. Look, obviously he shouldn't wait any longer. He shouldn't be an interim anymore. He should be fighting for the heavyweight champion. I think that's what they're going to go with next. Whether Jon Jones retires or not, Tom Aspinall's next in line.
And then we could see Aspinall versus Pereira. I think that was been teased since November 22 when Aspinall said, Pereira was looking him up and down. So that's another fight that I would like to see. Pereira does need to move up to heavyweight, though. I think it's a missed opportunity if he doesn't.
Has anyone asked Pereira if he wants to move up to heavyweight? Everyone's assuming that he's just going to go up. I think he has said, he will eventually do it.
He only speaks 2 or 3 words. It's hard to gauge what he wants.
He said Sharma. He said Sharma, which means he wants to move up.
Sharma? No Sharma.
Yeah. But look, people are just forcing him into this division. Like, let him dominate his division first. He's a championship holder in that division.
Well, I'm saying, objectively, if I was in Pereira's shoes, would you want to fight Jon Jones?
For money, yes.
Exactly. There you go. That's why it's like, it's not even a question of whether he wants to do it. It's just, he'll do it.
Okay. Well, Dana White also made massive headlines when he was in a press conference and basically said Conor McGregor is not going to fight this year. He's probably going to fight sometime next year. Pretty much saying, Michael Chandler's on suicide watch somewhere.
Well, because this has been, 2 years he's been waiting for this fight. It got cancelled in June and it got cancelled, it got cancelled in July and then it got said, okay, maybe it can happen towards the end of the year. McGregor's been very active on Twitter. He says, Dana, December, baby, let's make it happen. Give the people what they want.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's happening. For Dana White to come out and say it, and then Michael Chandler to now start looking at, other opponents. He started naming people like Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Arman Tsarukyan. He said, I'll fight anybody except Paddy Pimblett. I don't know why he singled out Paddy Pimblett as someone who doesn't want to fight. Michael Chandler. He's basically said, I'll fight anybody except him, which is weird.
Very strange.
I mean, no, I don't think so. I think he just knows that that's too risky of a fight.
Put some respect on Paddy the Baddie. I mean, Islam just called him out as a potential contender down the line.
But if I'm Michael Chandler, hold out for the McGregor fight. Just hold out. Even if it's next July. You got nothing to lose here. You're already taking time off. Maybe you could have a fight in between. I don't know. But McGregor's the money fight. That's a legacy fight as well.
How quick this shit hit the news was crazy because it was at the end of Dana White's Contender Series. He did a press conference and they asked him about Conor McGregor. Have you spoken to him? He said, yes, we've met and we spoke on the phone. And look, that fight won't happen this year. Immediately, every MMA page, Dana White confirms Conor McGregor no return. Everywhere. It was all over Instagram. It was all over Twitter. People are going, Conor McGregor, you're done. Let's just wrap it up. You're done. McGregor takes to Twitter straight away. It was all within an hour, maybe within 2 hours. And McGregor says, Dana, give the people what they want. December's the date, which is UFC 310.
In Vegas.
So everyone's eyeing that December card. I think Bilal Muhammad's also mentioned he wants to be fighting in December. But look, if Michael Chandler doesn't get this card, people are saying maybe he can headline UFC Utah. That's got your name written all over it. I don't know. I like you said, there's other contenders he can fight. I think he said publicly he's not going to wait around anymore. Because like I said, that's 2 years of straight out unemployment. You haven't been doing anything. You haven't fighting anyone. You're just training. You've been preparing for Conor McGregor, who's really just picking you as his return fight. People want to see his return. So go out there and make a name for yourself. The worst part about Chandler missing out on McGregor and waiting for him is if he goes and loses a potential fight, say at UFC Utah, his stock goes down and he doesn't get that McGregor fight. He doesn't
get that fight. So
it's a massive risk.
But you do need to stay active as well. I'm sure being active is more important. I don't think he's, like I said, the names he's mentioned, Charles Oliveira rematch, you want to stay away from these top guys. I think a Paddy Pimblett fight does make sense. I don't know why he doesn't want to fight him. After seeing Paddy Pimblett post UFC Manchester weighing in at 90 kilos, I think that would be a great fight. The guy's out of shape. For him to cut that down to get in shape for UFC Utah, I don't think he can do it. It's an easy target.
Paddy Pimblett drops weight in like a week. He's that much of a freak. But no, look, I don't know what's next for Michael Chandler. We'll see what happens with Conor McGregor. But if Dana's saying it's not happening this year, most likely it's not happening this year.
I mean, you'd back the promoter because it's his call.
But that means everything from that Michael Chandler did, from going on Monday Night Raw and cutting a promo to cursing Conor McGregor out in interviews,
even just doing the TV show with him. It's just a waste of time.
Yeah, doing the Ultimate Fighter with him it just meant nothing. And ultimately, Conor McGregor can pick and choose if he wants to fight Max Holloway or if he wants to fight Michael Chandler sometime next year. Michael Chandler, you're better off just fighting while you can.
And then Michael Chandler, I'm saying Don't go for Charles Oliveira. He's coming off like not a very good record. He's lost a lot of fights in the UFC against top guys. He's lost to Poirier. He's lost to Gaethje. He's lost to Oliveira. So he doesn't really have much stock going for him, Michael Chandler. So why do you want to verse these guys again and shoot yourself further down the rankings? Yeah. The smart decision is just to hold out for McGregor.
Okay, you brought up Paddy Pimblett. He put out a vlog of him weighing in at 90 kilos. So Paddy Pimblett, post-fight, post his good win at UFC Manchester, probably a career-defining win for him, entering the rankings at UFC Manchester. He beat Bobby King Green, right? But Paddy Pimblett, I think it's been 3 weeks since UFC Manchester?
Just about, not even.
So 3 weeks on after Manchester, Paddy Pimblett weighs in 90 kilos. You could see it goes straight to his cheeks. He starts to fill up. He's showing off his physique. His physique is still there. He's got some abs.
And I think he fights at 170 pounds. He's weighing in now at about 190 pounds. So he's just put on straight 10 kilos or 10 to 15 kilos of just fat, fast food. And like you said, he's still got some abs. All the weight just goes to his cheeks. All of it's in his face. He just somehow just pushes out all in his face.
He says the main reason is when he doesn't train, weight just jumps on him. But his teammates in the gym said, yeah, well, he had 3 desserts last night. So that is also why the weight goes straight to his cheeks as well. What I'm saying is, and we spoke to him in person, we call him the Christian Bale of the UFC. He can method act for any role and obviously cut weight and put on weight for Batman and then cut weight back down for another role. And he does that for his weight division. But this can't be healthy for Paddy. I'm saying, if you want to be like the contenders in your division, I'm not going to tell him how to fight because obviously it's working for him. But like, look at your Islams, your Leon Edwards. They always look like they're ready to go. They're ready to fight, right? So I feel like that's what Paddy's missing a part of his game. By all means, you can go and enjoy yourself after a massive win. Smack into your pizzas. That's what he was doing with Tom Aspinall. Go for your life. But it's like, surely it's got to be detrimental to your future preparation.
Well, you see, Volkanovski's recently come out. Yes, I'm not fighting till next year, but I want to remain in good shape because he thinks as an athlete, it's best for him to always be in good shape. I'd imagine someone like LeBron, he spends $1 million on his body a year. He wants to be in the best shape all the time because, yes, it might be, comfortable in the short term and you think you can drop weight for a fight.
Yeah.
But in the long term, as an athlete, I think it's more beneficial to always be in tip-top shape. You're just accumulating more reps and becoming better over time.
I mean, he's only 29 years old, but like with age, you're right. You take 3 months off, it increases your likeliness of injury. You know what I mean? Anything can happen. It's like ring rust, getting in and out of the ring. It's very different. I mean, look at Colby Covington, how long he spent out of the ring and how different he looked when he got in there. So I don't know. I want to see Paddy consistently remain active, but it works for Paddy. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And as a ranked fighter in that division now, he can be considered the money fight. There's people in that division who are significant strikers, great wrestlers, but as an actual personality, he's one of the most entertaining. And if people are going to start, matchmaking, he's going to get a match much easier than other people. He could go verse Michael Chandler. He could go verse Dustin Poirier because he's the money fight. He's someone that attracts the fans. So Paddy Pimblett, stay in good shape because if you need to take a short notice fight, you're in no condition to do so right now.
Yeah, you got to be ready to put your hand up for those short notice opportunities. Definitely. Now, I want to talk about Jake Paul because Jake Paul has recently put his hand up and says, I want to enter the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. No, not for breakdancing or any YouTube-related endeavors, but for boxing.
Is he allowed to because he's a professional?
Well,
is he professional?
A lot of people critiqued online on Twitter. So I don't know if anyone's told Jake Paul that professionals can't enter the Olympics. It's amateurs only. But on the Australian side, you saw people like Harry Garside go in and fail fairly quickly and lose in the first round. But, he was a professional and then went back to the Olympics.
Yeah,
so, I mean, I'm sure they could make exceptions for Jake Paul.
I mean, is he a heavyweight? What's his division?
Well, I mean, he has bulked up to a heavyweight, but I mean, he can go up and down. Steroids can do anything.
Well, he was in Paris. He was there with his lovely girlfriend. I saw them parading around, kissing in front of the Eiffel Tower. He seemed to have really enjoyed Paris. He didn't participate this year. If it was an idea to participate in the Olympics, why wouldn't he do it now? Why is he waiting 4 years?
He's saying he wants to see a gold for US. He's saying, I want to be that gold for US.
But I'm saying, why didn't he box this year? He's a boxer. It would make sense to go to Paris and do it. Why is he waiting for LA?
Well, I just think everyone got caught up in the fanfare of the Paris Olympics saying, and he's watching the boxing. He's probably watching Iman Khalif as well with all the criticism around that and said, I want to enter the boxing.
Can he fight in the women's division?
No, obviously not as a woman, but as a male in the males division. And look, I think it would be cool. If anything screams LA Olympics, it's having a YouTuber perform as one of the boxers. For sure.
I don't think he would actually make the team. Whatever division he is, I don't think he's a good enough boxer to be in the Olympic team.
I think he could go with some of these amateurs for sure.
No, amateur boxers.
If these amateurs haven't turned pro, and you're talking to Jake Paul, that's beat some professional boxers.
MMA
gone
fighters.
toe to toe with.
He's beaten MMA fighters.
Tommy Fury.
He's a YouTube boxer. He's on Love Island. No serious boxers going on Love Island.
At the time, we were saying Tommy Fury was a serious boxer. It's his first test.
I've never said that.
So,
and that's the one fight he did lose. So he hasn't beaten him.
Okay. Yeah, well, maybe it would be a good test for him. But, I mean, till then, we're going to see him face Mike Tyson on Netflix.
If there's an Olympic sport for beating washed-up MMA fighters, Jake Paul, you can win gold. But actual boxing, I'm sorry, you're not going to win it.
Yeah, that's probably a fair criticism. I'd like to... Okay, which other YouTubers would you like to see in the Olympics? Would you, pro wrestling obviously can't be an Olympic sport. Logan Paul would probably win gold. But, I mean, yeah, any other...
I'm trying to think what other YouTubers are actually like Mr. Beast. There's no giveaway competition.
No.
KSI, there's no annoying competition. He's not going to really do much in there. He can box, but he's even worse than Jake Paul.
Well, you got your Pat McAfee's. There's no kicking. No punting.
I could imagine someone like one of those big WWE guys maybe doing some sort of discus throwing or shot put throwing using their weight.
What about quarterbacks? Do quarterbacks get any love? Because look, football players, soccer, I'm talking. They've got to be young. It's almost the under-23s go. But the professional basketball teams go. Boxers have to be amateur. Yeah. But the professional tennis players go. Where's the consistency? Like, can some professionals go and some not?
I think it just depends on the sport. I don't know why. We spoke about it last week with boxing. Professional boxers wouldn't want to go because it would cost them money. It'd just be commercially, terrible. Tennis, I don't know why they let them go. I think it would make sense to make it like the soccer, letting the under-23s. I don't know. I think the schedule of a soccer player, it's just so year-round. They already have international competitions. I know basketball's got like the FIBA World Cup, but it's not the same.
I mean, winning a gold medal means nothing compared to a World Cup.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, okay. Well, let's look at UFC 305. We're giving you a full in-depth preview, but before we do that, I want to talk about really the highlight of the week. And it's the main event. It's Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya.
The fight to see who the real African is.
Well, these guys have been going at it since they did that stare-off. Let's be honest. It was known as the longest stare-off in UFC history. They were staring at each other. I'm surprised none of them kissed each other. We know Dricus' background in kissing blokes and Adesanya being a little bit sus. Yeah, but, I mean, it was pretty intimidating. No one's seen that long of a face-off in the UFC. I don't know if it's genuine hate towards each other. They've spoken a bit in Media Week this week saying, look, we don't genuinely hate each other. We respect each other's ability, but, they both want the championship. And Israel Adesanya wants that championship. But there's been a lot said this week.
Well, I think Adesanya hates du Plessis for the stuff that he has said, which he has taken offense to. I don't know if it's like a hate or a disdain to the point of where he wants to kill him.
Well, du Plessis called himself the first African-born champion because he's
Not
never...
African-born, like the first African champion, as in he's got an African team, he resides out of Africa.
Yeah, that's African-born. He was born in South Africa, never left South Africa.
But like Adesanya's African-born. Ngannou's African-born.
No, they weren't born in Africa.
Yes, they were.
No.
Yes, they were. You're getting their whole backstory mixed up. They were born in Africa. I don't know about Adesanya.
I don't think Adesanya was.
Francis Ngannou was 1,000% born in Africa. But when Drake...
Cameroon.
Yeah. So when he's talking about his team being African, him training in Africa, residing in Africa, that's what he means when he says that he's a true African champion.
Yeah, so he's obviously taken offense to that, saying... you're shitting on the legacies of Francis Ngannou, Kamaru Usman himself, saying he paved the way for Dricus du Plessis to be champion, and saying that he lives a privileged life behind the gates of his or he lives behind the gates of his privilege.
Well, South Africa has a history of apartheid, whatever. There is still some sort of racial things there. I think that's what he's trying to allude to. But Dricus does make sense in what he's saying, but to say that to people with African heritage is pretty tough for them to swallow. I understand why they wouldn't accept it.
I don't think Dricus cares in the slightest. I think even if it's a bit of mind games, I don't care. Dricus looks like he's having fun. He's enjoying being champion. He looks like
he's in the shape of his life as well.
Yeah, the guy is absolutely huge. He's jacked. He's absolutely massive. But what also is funny is that it started very serious. And we're like, okay, don't call yourself the first African. Yeah. Okay, then it just started getting really weird and petty. Like it was like, okay, Dricus is just watching me dance. you know, of course, he's not respectful to the indigenous culture.
Yeah,
here.
I feel like that was a bit of a reach as well. I think trying to get a photo of someone looking at you dancing, like maybe he's foreign to the culture. I don't know. It was a bit of a
I don't have the
stretch.
best dance moves either. I would have been like Steve Erceg there for sure, like not being able to move. But then it got worse because Adesanya put up a tweet comparing their cock sizes.
Well, he looked at him and said, look, if you're the real African, you would obviously have a bigger package.
That's what he's alluding to in the meme. So he's saying, you tell me who the real African champ is with, Israel Adesanya. You could definitely make out his schlong there. It's
Bigger bulge.
definitely, and I think that correlates with him being African. Whereas Dracus du Plessis, well, I think this has been, I'm going to say Israel Adesanya's a bit of false advertising here because he's found the photo of Dracus du Plessis when he was, in a weight division below. So he's cutting weight there.
It's a bit lighter.
He would definitely, I don't know if there's shrinkage when you're cutting weight as well.
I've never
can't
cut
see the
weight, so I
full
don't know,
package.
yeah.
So I don't know, but it also can be mind games. Dracus's response, stop looking at photos of my willy online, please.
He came out at media day, addressed the media and said, lastly, guys, Adesanya, please stop looking at my willy. It's just a bit weird.
Obviously, this means nothing until they get into the octagon, but if you're talking trash talk and mind games during fight week and overall into the build-up of this fight, who's winning?
I think contender Adesanya is someone that's different because it is a mindset.
No, who's winning the fight? Who's winning the talk?
Oh,
Who's
okay.
winning
Who's
who's
winning the
winning the social media beef battle?
Well, I think Adesanya can't win any beef battle. The way he talks and conducts himself, it's just so cringe. For me, it's just very cringe. And Dracus is a lot cooler. He's wearing the rugby jersey. He dresses a bit more, classier. I just think as a whole, as a fighter and his persona, Adesanya's too cringe to win any beef battle.
I think Adesanya's cool, but I think it's the way that Dricus is playing it off. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, yeah, Sean Strickland deserves a shot too, but I think he should probably face Robert Whittaker. He just plays it off very simple. Like Adesanya will say something to him that's, very cringe, and he'll be like, yeah, whatever that means, Or, they face off and he said, I was scared he was going to kiss me, or is it, but I'm not a dog, so I wasn't worried. He said something like that.
So he's
very
creative.
quick.
He's in the
quick.
know.
He's quick-witted. But ultimately, this means nothing because when they go into the octagon, it'll be very different. And like you said, I think contender Adesanya is very different. And I think he probably ends up getting the job done.
Well, we'll see when we get into our further breakdown of every single fight on the card, although at least the main card.
Well, let's get into our top five. This is our first top five that we've done in a while. We're doing it on the road. Being an Australian card, this week's top five is top five Australian UFC fighters right now.
And right now, number 5 is Tai Tuivasa. Yes, he's on a bit of a losing streak, but he's someone who has previously fought for an interim champion, or he's fought an interim champion. He's someone who, when you talk to other heavyweights, they say he's got the ability, he just needs to put it all together. And hopefully this weekend he puts it together and ascends back up in the rankings.
Hey, this could be the bounce back for Tai Tuivasa. We want to see him back in the win column. The banger from Western Sydney. He's known worldwide. The Shoey, everyone knows him. He's a staple for Australian MMA. And at the end of the day, yes, he's coming off 4 losses, but it just takes one win. He's still ranked 10th in his division.
And he's beaten some big heavyweights in that division. Yeah. So it just takes one knockout, one punch.
Wins over Derek Lewis. He's been in there with Cyril Gane on a fight night. And I know he lost that fight, but he's still one of the best that Australia has to offer in the heavyweight division.
And it would be stupid not to put him in top 5. 4 losses in a row is tough to say for someone in the top 5, but it's Tai Tuivasa, we give him a pass.
Number 4, Steve Erceg. Okay, this guy, Michael Scott, Scarface, this guy is going to be the face of Australian MMA.
Well, he came out of nowhere earlier this year when he fought in Brazil. No one really gave him a chance, but you could say he arguably won that fight.
Arguably won. He's the flyweight champion in my eyes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So for some people, he did win the fight. If a couple judges voted a bit differently, maybe put their votes for that fight, he could be champion.
But let's not ignore his record. He's a great grappler, also great on his feet, striking. He's got a couple of wins via knockout in the UFC as well. I wouldn't discount his, wins via submission. Again, fought in Eternal as well. So a very prominent, promotion down under, Eternal. So, look, I would say Steve Erceg is the future of the Australian MMA. He's very quirky. People are gravitating towards him because he's not your conventional out there, Aussie UFC fighter. He's very down to earth. And I enjoy him. Full send MMA, someone that got around him when he was fighting Pantoja in Brazil. He really made a name for himself in that Pantoja fight as one of the best flyweights in the division.
At number 3, we're going Jack Della Maddalena, JDM, who is on an 8-fight UFC win streak at the moment.
Number 5 ranked welterweight.
Number 5 ranked welterweight, coming off a huge win against Gilbert Burns. You could make the argument that he's one win away from a title shot in the UFC. If he versus Shavkat or Kamaru Usman or even Leon Edwards coming off a loss and wins that fight, his next fight is a title shot. He's in great form. He's one of the best fighters in the UFC with his current win streak. So I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be higher on this list.
He's got one of the best win streaks in that division right now. He's on an 8-fight win streak. And to be honest, his fights are entertaining. You saw that one with Gilbert Burns.
Look,
he pulls that. Look, you know, he was losing up until that knee, but he has that ability to pull that out and be ready. He's always ready to strike. He obviously goes with anyone. A little bit injury prone, you know, whether it's a wrist, a staph infection, that's been coming along. He was supposed to fight UFC Perth. Would have been great to see him here. I think he's a Perth native. So, look, ultimately, again, one of the hottest prospects as an Australian UFC fighter, and I think he's going to be around for a long time, and he's going to be a welterweight title contender.
Definitely a contender. If he fights Shavkat, I don't like his chances, though. I'm going to be honest. As an Aussie, it does hurt. I'm hoping he fights someone like Leon Edwards or maybe even Kamaru Usman. I think Shavkat is the guy in the division. He's the boogeyman. Stay away from him.
Number 2, Robert Whittaker, the Reaper, right?
Still one of the best middleweights in the world.
This guy is basically a veteran in the UFC. He's been around for a long time and still, continually, I think he's gone up another level. You saw what he did to Ikram Aliskerov. The guy's an absolute freak. Just, you know, I think recently he came out and said, I'll retire when I'm 36 years old. So we've got maybe 2.5 years to enjoy him, Australia. So let's put respect on Robert Whittaker's name. Like you said, one of the best middleweights in the world, probably next in line for a title after Sean Strickland. He's going for challenges like Khamzat Chimaev, who's the boogeyman of the division, and not taking a backward step. You know, to do that at this stage in his career, you have to have some level of respect for him. He's beaten opponents who are like honestly very respectable in his division. Paulo Costa, you know, I know he's never beaten Israel Adesanya, but I think he'll eventually.
He could have. I reckon he did beat him once. But you know, Robert Whittaker, a former champion, someone who has the ability to become champion again. He's probably next in line. Him or Sean Strickland for the title shot. If he beats Khamzat, he's getting himself a title shot. He's obviously had a bit of a rough patch there when he lost to Drakus, coming off those Adesanya losses as well. But going forward, if he beats Chimaev, that's 3 wins in a row. He's one of the most informed fighters, not only in Australia, but in the UFC. And now he's only beaten by number 1, Alexander Volkanovski, the great Volkanovski.
Yeah.
He, yes, is coming off 2 back-to-back losses, 2 knockouts. But let's not forget who Volkanovski is. He's one of the greatest UFC champions of all time.
Greatest featherweight of all time.
One of the greatest featherweights of all time. He does have the ability to come back and win. His next fight is a title shot. He's holding out. He's come out and said, my next fight will be against Holloway or Topuria. And if it's against Holloway, he's beaten him 3 times. Topuria, he got caught. He was unlucky. If he does come back, you've seen what he can do. Against Islam in a pound-for-pound fight, he nearly won. People think he did win. So, yes, he's got knocked out. There's some recency bias on whether he's a good fighter, whether he's washed. I don't listen to any of that. I still think he's one of the best, and he's the best Aussie fighter.
Us Aussies love getting behind an underdog. And when Volk took it to Islam in that 5th round, and everyone was getting behind him, everyone said in Perth, the roof was going to explode off the place. Everyone that was watching TV, it created even a bigger superstar that Volk was. And, you know, everyone talks about the on short notice Volk, and he really is like that. He legitimately is. Anywhere, anytime, he will fight. The guy is honestly I think one of the best Australian athletes of all time. Notable wins over some of the best in his division. Jose Aldo, Chad Mendes, you know, Ortega, Max Holloway, Korean Zombie. So he's done it all. He really has nothing left to prove in the UFC except he wants to fight for his legacy. And, you know, to go for those double champs, everyone said, you know, you have to admire what he does. He's one of the best of all time. People respect him, and he's gained the respect of the whole MMA community. We love Volk. Aussies love Volk. I think he's one of the greatest of all time.
But that is our top 5 Aussie fighters right now. It can change, maybe with some, you know, subject to results this weekend. You know, if Kai Kara beats Steve Erceg, I think he might drop out of the top 5. But we'll see after this weekend. But as of right now, pre-UFC 305, that's the top 5 fighters in Australia.
While in Perth for UFC, we caught up with the co-main event, Kai Kara France. Let's see what he had to say. I'm here with Kai Kara France ahead of his co-main event at UFC 305 here in Perth. Kai, first I want to ask you, how's the body feeling?
Yeah, really good. awesome to chat to you. I love your guys' work. So it's cool to connect finally. And then, 5 weeks, only a few days away. Oh, sorry, 5 days, only a few days away. So just doing the little things that come with fight week, the media, the attention. Everyone want a piece of you, feel like a piece of me. But it's a good thing. It's support, you channel that. And we don't get paid the big bucks just to fight. It's everything that comes with it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a big week. People don't know it's a very draining week. Plus, you're cutting weight as well. Now, last time we saw you in Australia, you lit the place on fire with Manel Cape. It was in Sydney.
Yeah.
You're giving him the finger. We're throwing water bottles. What did you think of Manel Cape's performance with Muhammad Mokaev just in Manchester?
Thanks. Hey, this is karma. It's what happens when you act like an idiot and think that you are the star of the show. When you're on the prelims, me and Steve are co-main. Like, that just shows you that the UFC hold us higher value than you, and we're not high risk. It's because we go out there and we fight. We don't talk about it. We don't have to, have this false sense of security and act like we're the alpha. When, mate, the fight was better in the build-up. The weigh-ins, the pre-fight, when you got on the cage, had the security break you up. Fight started, you just look at each other's eyes.
They were just bouncing off each other. They weren't really doing anything. It was
nothing, just dancing. And it just shows that in this flyweight division, you got to go out there and you got to entertain. It's not about wrestling. It's not about just getting the win. It's not enough. We got to go out there and take it.
Where did the beef start with you and Manel Cape? Why do you guys hate each other?
No, there was no beef on my behalf. I got injured. Injuries happen. It's a contact sport. So I couldn't fight, but I was going to Sydney as a guest fighter. I've still got a family to provide for. I'm still going to get paid in some way, even though I'm not fighting. And then I'm there to support my teammates. And he didn't like that I was at the weigh-ins. He saw me front row. Imagine if my wife was sitting next to me and he hit her with a drink bottle. It's past the point of fighting. Like, I'm jumping on that stage and ripping you off. Like, it just shows you how doesn't have any social awareness of where you are. And trying to fight Izzy on the stage, it just shows that.
That's what I want to ask. He wanted to fight Israel Adesanya on the stage, and he's later said that he's undefeated in these streets. How do you think he would have gone up against Israel Adesanya?
Mate, it's lucky he left Sydney alive. Like, everyone on that stage, next to Ty, one of my boys, Tyson, Justin, Tuffer, and Izzy, like, everyone there is about to jump you.
Most likely he would have got squashed.
He wouldn't be here today.
Okay.
But the thing is, karma comes back around, and it's the way you treat people. It's the way you hold yourself. And if you just have that chip on your shoulder, you're just going to have negativity all around you.
Now, I want to talk about you in the co-main event here in Perth. Now, you're going up against Steve Erceg. Are you worried you're not going to take Steve Erceg seriously because he looks like Michael Scott from The Office? He looks like a regional manager, of a workplace here.
It's one of his superpowers, is looking unassuming, office worker.
Yeah.
I've met him a few times and he's too nice. But he wants everything that I want, and that's to be a world champion. So he's in my way. I got to respect my dreams and my family. He's taking food off my table to provide for my family. So for me, I don't have to hate someone to fight them. I can get up for a fight. It's a switch for me, and I'll be tapped in, ready to tap into the God of War, which in New Zealand and Māori is Tūmatoenga. So I'll be channeling that energy come fight night, and I'll have a job to do. So for me, there's nothing personal. It's only business, but I'm taking his head off.
It is Australia versus New Zealand. So I want to ask you, if you had to choose, which have the better break dancers, Australia or New Zealand, especially with what's going on at the Olympics?
Mate, it's pretty sad how she's pretty much ruined breakdancing for everyone. I did the worm back in intermediate when I was about 11, and it showed the same kind of skill level that she showed at the Olympics. So Ray Gunn, stick to teaching or whatever you did before breakdancing. New Zealand's obviously got the best breakdancers compared to Australia. If the kangaroo and I don't even know what the worm, but
some toe touches.
The toe touches of worm. If that's the best move Australia's got, I feel bad for you guys.
I don't know if you've seen Steve Erceg's dance moves. Do you think he could represent Australia?
I would actually love to see that. I would love to see Erceg.
He looks a bit stiff.
It'd be stiff, but he could be a good transition from Ray Gunn. What would Steve's nickname be?
I mean, where's he right now? Not Wonder Boy. It's like Fly Boy, but I don't know. Astro Boy, that's it. Yeah, he's Astro Boy right now. So that kind of works in breakdancing.
It does, yeah.
That kind of works. Michael Scott is his nickname. It's his TV character. What would be Kairouz France's TV character?
Well, I've been told that I look like Sonny Bill Williams, so
Like a young CSBW?
like a young SBW.
Yeah.
I back in when he played for the Bulldogs, he had that
Big shoulder charge.
that shoulder charge.
Yeah.
It was iconic. Anyone growing up would be like, "That's I want to hit you like Sonny Bill." So we obviously don't have the same structure or the same physique, but in the right angle and the right lighting, there is some resemblance. Yeah.
That's SBW that was wearing 17 in 2004, the OG SBW. What were your thoughts on Muhammad Mokaev getting cut from the UFC? I know you probably answered this in the past, but do you think it was fair that Dana cut him from the UFC?
Yeah, it's one of these things where if you don't treat people right, they remember it.
Yeah.
And it's not just about your fight style. It's not just about... it's an entertainment business at the end of the day. This is the hurt business. If you're going to go in there, you got to go in there for the kill. You can't just go in there to grapple and hug someone and just have a cuddle. That's not MMA. That's not the UFC. You can do that in other leagues, but in the UFC, people want to see action. And to be told that he's difficult to work with, staff said UFC staff said he's difficult, and that just shows you that these guys are the nicest guys. Like that, everyone will go above and beyond anything you need here. That's just how this company works.
Yeah.
So to have him, I guess, not be a part of the UFC anymore, I wish him all the best.
He's been posting on his Twitter. He's looking at being an Amazon driver, maybe a McDonald's worker. What do you think his future is outside of the UFC?
Hey, the real flyweights are fighting in the co-main event this weekend, so you had your chance. Your fight against Manel was supposed to be the next title fight contender, and both of you guys lost, even though you won. No one really won that fight, so I think, with me and Steve fighting this weekend, it just goes to show that, the UFC look after us, and then they expect fireworks, and that's what we'll be bringing.
It's an entertaining division. What were your thoughts on Urseg versus Pantoja? Do you think Urseg won that fight? Something. I mean, Aussies think he's the flyweight champ.
Oh, 100%. I thought he won that fight. I messaged him after the fight saying, "Congrats, bro. You should be proud of that performance." And that's the thing about this flyweight division. Anyone can be anyone. So it's wide open. Even though Pantoja's the champion at the moment, on any given day, it could be anyone else. So I could be fighting Steve right now for the title. So that's why I can't take him lightly. That's why we haven't been taking him lightly. And I'm not looking past him at all. I'm going in there and ready for the challenge, ready for the best Steve. And that's only going to show the best Kai.
Hey, that's awesome. And then last one, Kai, main event prediction, Israel Adesanya versus Dracus du Plessis. Who are you going with?
Hey, you already know my answer. But this fight feels different. It feels different at our gym. Just the lead up and the preparation to get ready for these big moments. We've done it before in New Zealand, UFC Auckland. We did the three-peat, me, Dan and Brad. We did it in Melbourne as well, Dan, Izzy and Brad. And we're about to do it again in Perth. So it's always powerful when you can go into the trenches and into battlefield with your brothers. And that's what we're tapping into, just feeding off each other. Ready to put New Zealand, Aotearoa on the world stage. Look at our Olympic team. Look how well they did. And it's now our turn to showcase our skills. So I'm expecting Izzy to get a finish, to go in there pure violent and tap in and take out Dracus and get back his world title. Israel's one of the best and the best to ever do it. So pretty lucky to have him as a teammate, and I'm excited for all of our fights this weekend.
You think TKO finish?
TKO, knockout, just don't stop watching. You just never know what's going to happen. But I expect him to come out on top.
Hey, CKB, the boys. That's the gym. They're all getting behind each other. Yeah.
There's about 30 of us in Perth right now. And tomorrow night, while we're weight cutting, we'll be tuning in, watching the Wires take on the Sea Eagles.
Yeah.
Should be a good game. Webby, the coach, called me today actually just to wish me all the best.
You're not replacing Sean Johnson, are you, halfback? No.
No. Sean's he's his career has been amazing, and I grew up watching him as a fan, and his touch highlights are one of the best out there, and just to see what he's done in the sport of rugby league, it's pretty amazing. Growing up everyone wanted to be like Sean. The way he came on the scene so fast and agile, you just knew once he got the ball, magic was about to happen. He was robbed last year for the Dally M, but
I agree with that.
We let it go and we focus on the future, but all the best for his end of the season and then his next endeavour. The boys are still in a great place, still turning up for each other down at the Wires. I'm grateful to be a part of that club as a wrestling coach, and for the coach to ring me today just to wish me all the best before things get more hectic. Just goes to show you how close and tight-knit the boys are.
Mate, well, look, best of luck. I can see you get the W. I know I'm Aussie, but I think I'm going to pull for Kai here. Mate, best of luck. Appreciate you doing it, mate. Yeah, legend.
Up the doggies?
Yeah, up the doggies. Now that takes us to the UFC Perth 305 preview, starting with Rosenstruik versus Tai Tuivasa. Nick, who are we going with here?
Well, Rosenstruik is $1.44 favourite, and that's because Tai Tuivasa is coming off a 4-fight losing streak.
Yeah.
He's paying $285. But in heavyweight, it's very hard to pick a winner because one punch changes the whole fight.
These guys are both heavy hitters.
So it could be a slugfest. But if we're betting people, which we are, we're going to go with Rosenstruik because I think overall, Tai Tuivasa is just not who he used to be. This losing streak has caught up to him. I don't think he's the top 10. I don't think he should be a ranked fighter in the UFC based upon those fights. He got absolutely dominated by Volkov last year in Sydney. Yeah. And if that fighter shows up, I don't think he can compete. So Rosenstruik here, $1.44 is good value.
Look, I always think there's opportunity for Tai to catch him. He's obviously going to fight within range. But I think Rosenstruik's just going to be too classy. He's going to bide his time and look for the openings and catch Tai Tuivasa. I think it's going to be Rosenstruik by TKO.
It'd be nice to see Tai Tuivasa win and do a shoey. I think that's what everyone in the crowd wants to see, but it'll be an upset if it does happen.
Look, I think he's taken this camp a little bit seriously. He's trained, in the UAE. He's gone out of training camp there. He looks like he's shed a little bit of weight. Tai Tuivasa, he always comes in a bit heavy. But, yeah, I just think he's kind of on the back end of his career where he's not caring as much. He's not as motivated.
Just fighting for the sake of it.
He's reaped the rewards, the shoey. He's starting a weed company. I just don't think his head's in the game. I think Rosenstruik is just going to be too technical for him and clean him.
Yeah, I agree with that. The next fight is Dan Hooker versus Mateusz Gamrot. Who do you have winning that fight?
This is a tough one because I like Dan Hooker. Again, our mate across the Tasman. I've always supported Dan Hooker. But everything I've seen online, looking at past fights, looking at past highlights, Gamrot's wrestling is... I think he's going to be a superior grappler in there, and I don't think that Dan Hooker's going to be able to contend with it. Dan Hooker, like I said, he's been out of the octagon for a long time, and we brought that up in previous weeks. He's been campaigning for a fight for a long time, finally got one in UFC Perth, and I just don't think he's going to be able to deal with the latches. If you see Gamrot's wrestling, he can lunge from a very far place, lunges fairly low, and automatically he's got you.
Well, Gamrot has been talking about possibly going for a title shot. He's even open to the fact of going against Sarukian for the interim title. He's claimed himself to be the best wrestler in the division. If he was to go up against Islam, he said he would dominate him. So with that type of confidence, I don't think Dan Hooker stands a chance. I think Gamrot will control this fight. He'll wrestle him, straight from as soon as the bell rings, he'll go shoot straight for a takedown and try and wrestle him down. At $1.28 favorite, I think that's why he's considered one of the best in the division. And he's rising up the rankings. So it'd be very upsetting if he didn't win.
Given it's a 3-round fight, I'm going with Gamrot by a decision. I think it goes the distance, this fight. You're not going to see a knockout, but I think Gamrot's going to be fairly clinical with his wrestling. It may be fairly close with Dan Hooker, surprising and coming within range and striking, but I think Gamrot's just going to get the better of him with his grappling and his wrestling. And Gamrot gets the decision victory.
And if he does win, I think that does set up the interim title fight because I think Islam, he's going to be out for a while. At least that's what the reports are saying. And if he is out to at least March next year, then I think that means that it's going to be Sarukian versus Gamrot for the interim title.
Okay, let's go with Steve Erceg versus Kairouz France.
Steve Erceg, the Aussie talent, is paying $1.58. He's the favourite, which Kairouz France. Other than, thing with Manel Cape that he had in Sydney last year, has he fought since then? I don't think he has.
Yeah, he's been off for a while.
He's had a long layoff. So Erceg coming off the activity in Brazil, with the power that he has, I think he can win this fight. I hope it's a bit more of a striking battle than what a lot of these flyweight titles are. If Steve Erceg can control the fight, I think he can get it done.
Yeah, no, these guys will strike each other. Kairouz France is known for his massive overhands. He loves to let that loose. I just think Steve Erceg's going to be too technical, and that's not an Aussie bias. You know, you saw Steve Erceg striking with Alexander Pantoja, who's the champion in the division. He competed with him on the feet. You know, he's got those elbows. I think they're going to trade, but I think Steve Erceg will get the better of him with his grappling as well and test him on the ground. So I'm going with Steve Erceg, the Aussie. I don't know if it will go the distance. I don't really see it. I don't think it's going to be a finish with these flyweights.
Well, I've put my best bet of the night as this fight going the distance. It's paying $1.70. The reason so, because they weigh about 55 kilos. Even if they get a significant strike, they don't really have that much weight behind them.
A lot of the submissions.
A lot of these flyweight fights, though, they always go the distance. Pantoja versus Erceg, it went the distance. Pantoja Royval goes the distance. It's because they don't have power. And especially now that it's a 3-round fight, not a 5-round fight, it's more likely to go the distance. A lot of 3-round fights, especially at these weight classes, very rarely does it go to the
fight to go the distance, $1.70.
Best bet of the night.
Not a bad bet. Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis, the main event. Nick, I'm really torn. I'm waiting for this fight week. The closer that we're getting to Sunday, the more money that's coming in for Dricus du Plessis. Well, everyone's saying, you know, that you can't discount this guy's striking. He's one of the best strikers in the division. I know Israel Adesanya's been off for a long time, but I feel like everyone's fallen asleep on him.
Well, the bookmakers are torn on this because they're both at about $1.90 each. So the betting, it could go either way. No one's really confident on who's going to win. And that's because Dricus, every single fight that he's had in the UFC, people will expect him to lose. Adesanya, as a contender, is considered a different fighter. Every fight that he's contending for the title, whether against Pereira, whether I think it was against Jared Cannonier, Marvin Vettori, he's a different fighter. He has knockout power. When he versed Whittaker for the title, he knocked him out. So as a contender, Israel Adesanya is known to be someone that is at least should be a heavy favorite. But Dricus, like he said, he's in tremendous shape as championship Dricus. You haven't seen this yet. And it's someone who does get takedowns. Sean Strickland got taken down by Dricus du Plessis, I think 6 times in their championship fight. Strickland's not someone that gets taken down a lot. Adesanya does get taken down easily. Adesanya got taken down by Alex Pereira. So if Dricus can take him down, get a bit of ground control the fight, subdue a lot of his kickboxing and his striking, I think Dricus can get it done. Unless Israel Adesanya knocks him out. I think Adesanya, for him to win this fight, he needs to get it done because he's not going to have that championship advantage where he can throw the leg kicks, get a couple, jabs in, and get a win on the decision. Adesanya needs to knock him out. So if I'm going to bet it, I'm going to bet Adesanya to knock him out. Contender Adesanya getting the knockout and getting his championship back.
I don't know about that. I could definitely see Adesanya, going the distance here. He's done it before in championship fights where he has fought that boring style just to get that championship win.
He was the champion.
Obviously, yeah. And he probably thought he did enough against Sean Strickland as well at the time. But look, the way that, Dricus won the championship off Sean Strickland wasn't very convincing for me. I think Adesanya is going to be a more, dominant striker. And I think that's where the fight's going to be won. I haven't seen Dricus's, I haven't been convinced that he has unbelievably high-level grappling, and wrestling, that he's going to just overpower Israel Adesanya like no one has done before. So I think if it becomes a striking battle, I'm siding with Israel Adesanya and a contender Israel Adesanya who wants to go out there, get the knockout,
a lot to prove,
regain his championship, get the fans back on his side. So again, I'm edging towards Israel Adesanya.
Well, that's why I think for my best bet, if I'm going to go KO, TKO, Adesanya, that's paying $3.25. A lot of value there. But if you want to add a bet to your multi, if you want to add, something like $1.30, a safe bet, what would you consider a safe bet? Mm-hmm. Both fighters to have 30 significant strikes, paying $1.35.
Wait, so both fighters have to accumulate 30?
They have to hit each other. They each have to have 30 strikes each.
So 30 strikes each.
Which is very easy to get, especially if you think it's going to go deep into the 4th, 5th round. These guys should do it. If they don't shoot for takedowns as well, they try and play a distance game. They'll land some significant strikes. I think that's the easiest bet of the night. It's $1.30. You add it to the multi for the rest of the night.
All right, let's go through your multi, starting from Rosenstrike.
Rosenstrike head-to-head, $1.70, $1.44, sorry. Add it to the multi. Rosenstrike, $1.44. I'm taking that into Gamrot head-to-head, taking that into Erceg versus Kairouz France to go the distance. Can't pick a winner in that fight.
Yep.
And then I'm taking that into Izzy head-to-head. Just not the knockout, in case he wins by decision. All up, that's paying $5.30.
Odds may change in the lead up to the fight. For my one, again, I'm going Rosenstrike win, just a head-to-head. I think he's going to do it by a knockout, but just for safety, head-to-head. I don't like dogging my boy from Western Sydney like that, but, it is what it is.
Hey, money's money.
Money's money. Got to bet with the head. I'm going Gamrot to go the distance. Gamrot win by decision. Then we got Steve Erceg versus Kai Kara-France. Steve Erceg going the distance. And then main event, Israel Adesanya head-to-head.
Okay, that's good. That's a good bet. I mean, it's kind of similar to mine, maybe just a few legs different.
I don't want to take Israel Adesanya TKO. I don't know if it's,
I would take that as a standalone bet. Maybe if it's a good value bet as a standalone. If you back and you buy into the Israel contender, narrative.
But they are our multis for UFC 305 Perth. If you want to continue following our multis, make sure you subscribe at Kairouz Bros on YouTube and at Jon-Bernard K over on Instagram. Make sure you stay tuned for our top 5. But that is our UFC 305 preview. We're here on the ground in Perth. Let us know what you want to hear more of in the comments. We'll finish on the WWE, Nick. The Judgment Day has taken over Raw. Liv and Dominic aligning with each other. And then you've got, Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, the Terror Twins, they're calling them.
Well, it's funny to see it, I think Dominick Mysterio saying she lets me eat my chicken tendies, she lets me play video games.
Very funny.
It's very funny. Damian Priest getting somewhat of a bit of a crowd reaction because of, doing the Undertaker and Kurt Angle hanging back in the crowd. Yeah. He's getting a bit of love from the fans. It is the most intriguing thing. Rhea Ripley, she said she's heartbroken. I feel for her. This is Dominick Mysterio, someone that they travelled with. They went to Australia with.
She can't be mummy anymore.
Well, she can't be mummy anymore. And now she's stuck with Damian Priest, it is a downgrade. From Dominick Mysterio to Damian Priest, you're downgrading.
To the bisexual Undertaker.
Yeah, it's not nice.
Well, look, full credit to the Judgment Day. From a gimmick that, was pretty much set to the side after Edge was taken away from him, they've pretty much made it into one of the most intriguing parts of WWE television. And you've got a massive feud now with, I think it's going to be a tag team with Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest versus Liv Morgan and Dominick Mysterio. That's what they're going to eventually set up.
Massive size advantage.
But Dominick Mysterio went on Logan Paul's podcast and said, they asked him, listen, how does your wife feel about you shacking up with Liv Morgan on TV and then you being with Rhea Ripley on TV? She's licking your face, you kissing Liv Morgan on TV. And he goes, to her credit, she doesn't care. She knows I play a TV character. That's not the Dominick Mysterio at home. She saw Rhea Ripley lick my face and then she said, hey, what do you want for dinner? Or did you leave a spider outside or something like that? So she's very blasé about it, but that's what I want to ask you. Could you play Dominick Mysterio on TV? I don't know if I can handle it. If you got Liv Morgan throwing yourself at me, I know it's just for a television show. I don't know. It would cause me a drama in the relationship.
Well, I don't know if you saw Rikishi when he was talking about Jey Uso and Rhea's relationship on TV. He said, listen, why are the WWE doing this? This guy's a married man. Leave him alone.
Stop trying to ruin his relationship.
Yeah, I could imagine that's what would be my reaction. If there's certain things you just maybe leave. I understand that you can tease it, but when they go the full length and getting licks on the faces and, the passionate kissing, I think that's taking it a step too far for a married man. But if they're comfortable with it, that's what can I say? That's what they're comfortable with.
To Dom's credit, he's become one of the best heels in WWE right now. He's the best heel in the business. Everywhere he goes, wherever it is, Australia, Japan, he gets booed out of the building. And it's because of his heel work and what he's been doing with Rhea Ripley and what he's done with Liv Morgan right now. And they're the most hated in WWE, but it's the most entertaining to watch. And obviously his wife's okay with it. Personally, I don't know if I could do that. But they're making it work.
We'll see how
I wonder how the deadbeat father feels about it.
We'll see how the storyline plays out over the next couple of weeks. I don't think as it goes on, their wife will be happy. But we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all we have for Trash Talk this week. Thank you for always tuning in. Like I said, subscribe to at Kairouz Bros on YouTube and at Jon-Bernard K on Instagram. Till next time from UFC Perth. Back to you in the studio, Ryan.